want to bring in Representative Mac Thornberry. He's the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and it is good to see you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me first get your take on this rise in global terrorism, just as the U.S. is cutting defense spending. How do you characterize things right now when you see what's happening on the terrorism front?
Well, it's important not to be misled by taking a village or two in Iraq and Syria from ISIS. That's not the whole story. While ISIS territory in Iraq and Syria is shrinking somewhat, they are growing in influence in Libya, in Afghanistan, and we've seen a terror network in Europe that is far bigger than anybody expected. So we shouldn't get all fixated just on taking a town or two in Iraq or Syria. We need to push them there, no question, but it's a bigger fight than that.
Meanwhile, you see the news this morning, Boeing is cutting 4,000 jobs. They may very well cut 8,000 by the end of the year. So you see the defense industry still under pressure and this debate happening that we should be cutting defense spending.
No question. As a matter of fact, we did cut defense about 21% in the last 4 years in real terms. Meanwhile, the world is not 21% safer than it was 4 years ago. So you have this growing threat of terrorism around the world, including really scary scenarios like getting into nuclear plants in Europe. But meanwhile, you've got Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and these other threats. Our industrial base is shrinking. Our military has shrunk to the point that they are really stretched, I think, nearly to the breaking point in some key areas, and we haven't seen the leadership, political leadership, really, in both parties have some blame on this. We haven't seen the political leadership to get us out of this.
So it's true that defense spending is the lowest it has been in many years in terms of GDP terms. It is also true that we did manage to increase it by, I think, $25 billion for 2016. Now, that's probably a drop in the bucket relative to what the defense priorities really are. Can you talk to us, what is the priority for defense spending? Where should this additional money that I'm sure you're lobbying for might be allocated?
Well, remember last December there was a budget agreement that passed that did not really increase defense, but it included some stability. It's maybe $2 or $3 billion more last year than this year, so it's less than a 1% increase. But at least if you knew it was coming, then companies and the military and everybody could plan for it. I think the priority now is readiness. We are sending people off to fly missions with half the number of training hours that the military says they were supposed to have, and even fewer training hours than the adversaries they're going to be flying against. So readiness, training, maintenance, kind of that boring stuff, you know, but that is absolutely essential is the top priority.
Is that fixable without more money or significantly more money?
No, you've got to have more money, but you've also got to have more people to fix the airplanes. You've also got to have newer airplanes to replace the 1980s versions that we are just trying to keep alive. So it's a combination of factors. My point is that these factors have come together while we've been at war, and they have stretched the military to a point that's dangerous.
So readiness is what you're working on. How do you make sure our military is ready to go fight overseas?
It is the combination of enough money to maintain and train. You've got to get them the new equipment, and you've got to have research and development into new technologies because the world is changing faster. One of the key things we're pushing right now is acquisition reform. Again, it sounds boring, but it's trying to get the equipment fielded faster, into the hands of the warfighter faster. If it takes us 20 years to get a new airplane, it's going to be out of date by the time it gets there.
Well, but when we pulled out of Iraq, I mean, didn't we have all high-tech, very, technologically advanced equipment and armament that basically ISIS just rolled over the Iraqi government, and now ISIS is using our equipment?
We had very good equipment for that mission, and you're right, ISIS took a lot of it that we had left for the Iraqis. But two things. One is we spent a lot of money just fighting that war. We were not updating our equipment generally. And secondly, the technology for that Iraq fight is different than what we need for Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. Again, we've got a huge spectrum of threats, and we've got to be prepared for them all.
Yeah, I guess I was just referring to the fact that when we pulled out of Iraq, there were so many implications.
Absolutely, no question.
Including ISIS getting our equipment.